Hello guys, welcome to our channel Global Hot Talks. So yesterday, Professor John Mearsheimer argues that the Israelis are not going to send their troops to Iran for a land invasion. He argues that the Israelis have already overextended their troops to Syria, Gaza, Lebanon. So based on his analysis, he claimed that they are not going to send their troops for a land invasion. And the Israelis have understood that sending troops into Iran will be a catastrophe, based on what Professor said. So based on that, they are not going to send their troops.
82nd Airborne and the U.S. Marines do invade Karg Island or one of the other smaller islands, names now escaping me. Would the IDF join them in those boots-on-the-ground invasions?
Of course not. No, they're too smart to get involved in this. They're willing to let the United States pursue this foolish mission. So the Israelis won't be involved at all. The other thing is the Israelis are up to their eyeballs in alligators in southern Lebanon, in Gaza, and in Syria, not to mention the West Bank where they're executing these various pogroms. So they don't have troops to spare. As we've talked about before on the show, the chief of staff of the IDF has said that the Israeli military is in desperate straits these days. The soldiers are exhausted, and calling them up again has caused all sorts of problems because the Israelis had a big mobilization for the war in southern Lebanon, which is not working out very well, by the way. So the Israelis are not in any position to join with us to invade territory that belongs to Iran. And furthermore, I think they surely understand that this is not going to work out very well, and therefore it's best not to be a part of it.
Do we know?
Also, Professor John Mearsheimer argues that in order for the Americans to invade Iran, they will have to move their ships, those huge ships. They have to move them closer to Iranian mainland so that they can land the troops into the Iranians, islands or mainland. They have to bring them closer. But bringing them closer means getting shelled by Iranian missiles. So this is a quagmire for the Americans. So if you happen to enter into the Strait of Hormuz, you will still keep getting pounded by Iranian missiles because it's a narrow passage, and within that narrow place, it is within range for Iranian missiles to keep on pounding you. So it means more death.
I mean, it's hard to disagree with anything that he said. Trump is moving ground forces to the Middle East, combat units, and he's bringing in 2,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne, and he's bringing in about 5,000 Marines. And those Marines are going to be on amphibious assault ships. If you ever sort of look at what those amphibious assault ships look like, you'll see that they're huge ships. And to use them against the Iranians, you have to bring them up close to the Iranian mainland so that the amphibious troops can be dispatched from this big ship and land on the beaches. But there's no way you're going to get that big amphibious ship. There are two of them, the USS Iwo Jima and the USS Boxer. You're not going to get these amphibious ships anywhere near the Persian Gulf because they'll likely be hit with cruise missiles and sunk to the bottom of the Jolly Roger. You notice that we're parking all of our large naval ships far away from the Persian Gulf because we're afraid they're going to be hit. So the question is, how do you get these large ships like the USS Iwo Jima, near the Strait of Hormuz, and then you're going to push that ship through the Strait of Hormuz, and as General McCaffrey said, into the Persian Gulf? I don't even think you're going to get through the Strait, but if you get through the Strait, you're going to be a big sitting target in the Persian Gulf. So this just makes no sense. And then there's the 82nd Airborne. These are light infantry troops. President Trump talks about using them to take Karg Island. How are you going to do that? Karg Island is right off the coast of Iran. You can't get through the Strait to get to Karg Island. So how is the 82nd Airborne Division going to get there? I guess maybe you can drop them out of airplanes. I don't think that's going to work very well. Maybe you can insert them with helicopters. Again, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of Iranians down on the ground with anti-aircraft artillery and all sorts of other weapons waiting for those helicopters. And even if you get some 82nd Division, 82nd Airborne Division troops on the ground on Karg Island, aren't the Iranians going to put drones over their head, blast them with ballistic missiles, artillery and rockets, and so forth and so on? How are you going to resupply those troops? Again, they're on an island that's right off the coast of Iran and that you don't have access to. So I kind of just don't understand what's going on here. But again, what's happening is President Trump is walking up the escalation ladder with regard to ground troops. So I don't see how he gets away at this point without doing something with those ground troops. And if that doesn't work out very well, won't there be a serious temptation to bring in more ground troops?
Oh boy. Here's
So also earlier, President Donald Trump, in his briefing, he claims that the Iranians don't have to make a deal with him, that he is going to leave when he put them back to stone ages. Also, you have seen earlier from the press statement that the Iranians are releasing. They claim that they are not going to make a deal with the Americans, that they don't trust the American anymore. And they understand their position very clearly. They seem to understand that they are in the gear. You understand? So they know that they have the upper hand now. So they don't have to rush into making a deal. It is the Americans that need a deal very quickly, because the more the Strait of Hormuz the more they keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, the more pressure on the Americans. And earlier this week, as I have told you, that the Houthis have already entered into the war, which means Bab el-Mandeb is within the range of the Houthis missiles. So if they intend to close Bab el-Mandeb, it will be a quagmire for the whole world economy. So I think it is in the American interest rather to quickly see an end to this war, not to the Iranian. And even if the Americans decided to leave, they decided to leave without any deals. Let me tell you, the Israelis have no interest. They have no desire to see an end to the war. And the Iranians, they are not going to stop, firing their missiles. So it will be a quagmire.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people. It's a new regime. They are much more accessible. they are right. You know, they said, we have a present for you, Mr. President, out of respect. And they said, wait a minute, you wanted me to answer the question? You're a fresh person. You know, we've had a lot of problems with you, haven't we? No, they don't. You asked me a question. No, they don't have to make a deal with me. When we feel that they are, for a long period of time, put into the Stone Ages, and they won't be able to come up with a nuclear weapon, then we'll leave. Whether we have a deal or not, it's irrelevant. Now, it's possible that we'll have a deal because they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal. But in a fairly short period of time, we'll be finished. They will not be able to do a nuclear weapon for years. And when they are ready, maybe in a long time from now, able to do a nuclear weapon, you'll have a president that will be like me and that he will go there and he'll knock the hell out of them again because they cannot have a nuclear weapon. They are very radicalized people. They're very sick leaderships. And I will say, though, that the leadership we're dealing with now, with the new regime, because we have a new regime, and the new regime is much better than the past.
So thank you guys once again. Follow us for more.